All right, today we're tackling a really important topic, something that's a crucial part of the healing journey for so many people. We're talking about what happens when you're ready to leave the hospital, but you still need nutritional support to get better at home. You know that feeling, right? That huge sense of relief when you finally get to go home? It's the best. But for some, it comes with this big question mark. What happens now? What happens when your recovery still hinges on getting specialized nutrition? How do you even begin to manage that in your own home on your own terms? So, here's what we're going to walk through together. First, we'll cover why this is even a thing. Then, we'll dive into the planning stage, which is so important. After that, we'll look at the two main ways this is done, the two paths, if you will. And finally, we'll get real about what it's actually like to live with nutrition support every day. Okay, so let's start with the absolute basics. Why is this kind of care needed once you're back in your own space, away from all the doctors and nurses? Well, what we're really talking about here is for folks who are stable enough to be discharged, but they're dealing with chronic conditions that require some pretty specialized long-term feeding. It's all about continuing that healing journey just in a place that's way more comfortable, your own home. And that brings us to probably the most critical part of this whole process, the planning. This is the stage where your voice, your input, your choices, they aren't just important, they're everything. Look, for this to actually work and for you to be okay with it long term, it can't just be something that happens to you, not a chance. You, the patient, have to be in the driver's seat, an active partner in every single decision about your care. So what does that actually look like? It means having some really frank conversations with your healthcare team. You'll need to talk about the practical stuff. Like, is your home set up safely for this? Can you and your family handle the equipment? But also the bigger picture stuff, like how this affects your quality of life, the time and money involved, and what you'll do if you need medical help fast. Okay, so once that plan is starting to take shape, the next step is to really get a handle on your options. And when it comes to home nutrition, there are basically two main paths you can go down, enteral and parenteral. Think of it like this. Enteral nutrition uses the body's natural superhighway for food, your gut. It sends a special formula through a tube right into your stomach or intestine. Parenteral nutrition, on the other hand, takes a completely different route. It's like a bypass that skips the gut entirely and delivers all the nutrients directly into your bloodstream using a catheter. So let's zoom in on that first path for a minute, enteral nutrition, the one that works with the body's own digestive roadway. One of the most common ways this is done is with something called the bolus method. It's designed to be super simple and fast. You pretty much just get the formula ready and then administer it over a pretty short window, like 15 to 20 minutes. That's it. But you're probably wondering, what about actually living your life? Well, this is where modern tech has been a total game changer. For active people, kids and adults, there are things like low-profile tubes that are way less noticeable and portable pumps. These things are literally designed to give you your freedom back, to travel, to work, to just feel more normal. Okay, let's switch gears now and talk about that second path, parenteral nutrition. Remember, this is the one that takes that direct bypass right into the bloodstream for when the gut just can't be used. Now, because you're sending nutrients straight into the bloodstream, the rules here are incredibly strict, and for very good reason. We're talking about needing access to a big central vein, having an infusion pump with a solid battery backup. And this part is absolutely critical. Everything has to be prepared in a totally sterile or aseptic way. Keeping things perfectly clean is non-negotiable to prevent infection. And of course, any ready-made solutions have to stay refrigerated. So how does this actually fit into a daily routine? I mean, let's be honest, almost nobody wants to be hooked up to an IV pole 24/7. It's just not practical. That's why the vast majority of people opt for something called cyclic infusions. This means they can run the infusion over a set number of hours, very often overnight while they're sleeping. And that's usually a decision that's made with the medical team way before you even go home, just to make that transition as smooth as possible. So we've covered the what and the how. But now it's time to talk about the most important part of all of this. What's it actually like to live with nutrition support, day in and day out? And let's just be direct here. While these therapies are life-improving and very often life-saving, they are a really big deal. They demand some major adjustments, not just from the patient, but from their families too. It is a huge commitment. And what kind of adjustments are we talking about? while the feedings can take up a ton of time, which can really throw a wrench in work or social plans. Even those convenient overnight infusions can mess with your sleep. Simple things you might have taken for granted, like going on a trip or playing sports, now require a whole different level of planning. And of course, there's the financial side of it to think about too. But beyond all the logistics, there's this really deep social and emotional part of it. There's a quote from our research that just hits so hard. It says, "The failure to eat meals with family and friends is also a major concern among social issues." And it's so true, right? So much of how we connect with people is around a table, sharing a meal. And when you can't be part of that, it can be incredibly isolating. So, with all of these new demands, what on earth helps? The number one answer is connection. You do not have to figure this all out by yourself. Reaching out, finding a support group, or talking with a counselor can be unbelievably helpful just to share what you're going through with people who get it. And that really brings us right to our final thought for today. Home nutrition support is, without a doubt, a challenge, but it is also an incredible tool for healing and for living. So, we'll leave you with this question to think about. With really good planning, the right technology, and a strong support system around you, how can this massive challenge transform into just a manageable, integrated part of a truly full and meaningful life?